I have personally performed thousands of earwax removal procedures over the last few years. If you're interested in what my thoughts are about eardrops and when and how to use them, this video is for you. Welcome to Earman Dan. If you're new here, my name is Daniel and a very warm welcome. I'm a hearing care professional and the owner of Ear Studio in Castle Hill in Sydney. But more importantly, I spend my days helping people, not just to hear better, but actually to understand better and leave behind the challenges of hearing loss. And in this channel, I break down how hearing really works, how the hearing care landscape looks in Australia, and what you can do to get the best possible outcome. Now, I invite you to follow along in this journey. Now, as promised in an earlier video about earwax, today I want to talk about eardrops and ear sprays. I cannot even tell you how often I hear patients come into the clinic saying, "I've used these eardrops and they only make it worse." Yeah, and that's the only thing I can say. They very, very likely do make it worse. I'm actually quite upset about the marketing of some of these eardrops. Some of them claim they dissolve earwax. So they magically make earwax disappear? Really? By putting something else onto the wax, both substances just evaporate? Well, I don't think so. And at least that's not my professional experience. Now, I actually love these wax softening sprays. They do make my life in clinic a lot easier, and the procedure for the client makes it often much more comfortable. But, and that's a big fat but, in many cases, these drops or the use of drops and sprays can make the earwax removal much harder, and the initial blockage can be much worse than it has to be. Only use them if a qualified hearing care professional with years of experience in the wax removal field tells you to really use them. Now let me tell you what they do and why they have been recommended for GPs for so many years. As I said in another video, traditionally, earwax was removed by GPs or nurses in medical centers using with water. Up until a few years ago only, they would have dealt with the majority of wax blockages, and only the very severe cases they could not remove would end up at the ENT specialist. Now, in my view, it's not good time for an ENT specialist to remove earwax. They should do surgeries and solve cases that a hearing care practitioner cannot do. Out of the thousands of wax removal patients that we have seen in my clinic, we've only had a very few of them that actually needed the attention of an ENT specialist, but then for a really good reason. So, back to the GPs and how they remove earwax. They normally used water, as I just mentioned, to remove the wax. But again, water under pressure can be very dangerous to the eardrum. But since that's the only method that most of them had available, they had to recommend something that would first soften the wax before they can use water to remove it safely. In the past, until a few decades ago, people actually used olive oil to help remove earwax. The reason for that is to make the water removal less dangerous. We need the wax to be really, really soft and sloshy that the water can get it out without pressure. The eardrops can't evaporate or dissolve wax into nothing. But these drops, most of them actually derived from olive oil with some using peroxide, can make the wax much, much softer. If wax is in the ear for a very long time, and in some cases years, it can literally get rock hard. And while it's quite easy for us to remove wax with suction or manual tools, these were mostly not available at the GP's clinics, so they only had the options of using drops to soften it beforehand. Here's the deal. Now let me get my ear again. Let's say you have some wax in the ear that is demonstrated here by this blue tag. There are still some gaps where sound and air can get through, so your hearing is normally not greatly impaired. As I said in the other video, wax is only produced in the cartilaginous part of the ear canal in the outer part, and the inner part of the ear canal is normally clear. If that is the case, it's actually quite easy for us to use these metal tools, these curettes for example, and we just hook onto the wax under direct vision, and then we can move these pieces out quite gently and easily with suction or with these little curettes. If the individual now goes to the chemist, let's say, and they read the instructions of some of these drops where it literally says use 4 drops twice daily for 7 days. But that's it. That's all the instructions. So that person goes home and wants to put some drops in the ear. Now, to do that, you first need to lie down, right? So let's illustrate that. We're lying down, right? So let's say all the wax here is in the ear, and you put some drops in while you're lying down. Now, gravity tells me that the wax can only go one way, and that is inside, deeper into the ear canal. And in many cases that we have seen in our practice, the wax actually goes down all the way down to the eardrum in a really sloshy substance and occluding most of that part down at the eardrum. And that makes the wax blockage much worse. In those cases, we actually often have to use water to remove it because scraping on the eardrum with metal tools is just not a good idea. So if drops are used, the instructions should technically say for them to lie down for 5 to 10 minutes on this one side, but then take a tissue, cover the ear, and turn over to the other side so that the drops actually have a chance to run back out. A much better solution than actually using drops is using a spray. These type of sprays can be used standing upright in the shower just before, and the earwax just runs out. Now, we use these exact sprays in our clinic when wax is really, really hard and dry. But in most cases, we only need to use it for a few minutes, if at all, and then we can continue using suction to pull it out. But we only rarely recommend using drops or sprays as a preventative measure, as they only really work for some individuals. It's always better to have wax removed professionally. So, a quick conclusion. I do not recommend drops or sprays as a blanket rule. They only really work in some cases, as I've said multiple times. Wax drops, though, are good to use if the only available method of wax removal is water. In those cases, you actually should use them. But in those cases, just also expect that the first few days leading up to the removal appointment while you're using the drops, the blockage can feel much, much worse. I've actually used olive oil and water many times to remove wax while I was working in the Andes Mountains in Peru. That was the only thing we had available up there. But if you don't want to deal with a few days of heavily blocked ears, which I could fully understand, just seek the assistance of a medical professional or a hearing care professional before using any drops. If they are absolutely needed, the professional will tell you to do so. Now, a final word of warning, and my ultimate reason as to why I don't like recommending drops as a blanket rule is that you may not be aware of a perforation of the tympanic membrane that opens the way to the middle ear. If there's a hole in the eardrum and you pour drops in, the soft wax can actually enter the middle ear, and that's nearly guaranteed to cause much bigger problems. So, once again, before putting anything in the ears, please seek professional help. I hope this was informative. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions. And until the next video, I wish you all the very best. Bye-bye.